funny thing about warnings, no one ever takes them seriously until the floor is already crumbling beneath their feet. They laugh, shrug, roll their eyes. Relax, it's not that deep. Oh, but it is. It always was. See, the signs weren't subtle. The tension wasn't hiding. The people love to pretend they've got time. Love to dance on the edge like gravity's just a suggestion. They hear the creaks, they feel the cracks, but they keep pushing like the rules don't apply to them. They always think they've got more time, that the ticking is just background noise, that the deadlines are flexible, that the fall won't hurt if they pretend it isn't coming. Cute, really. Like a child covering their eyes thinking the monster can't see them. But time doesn't play games. Time doesn't bargain. Time doesn't care if you're scared, tired, or not ready. Time's a butcher with no sympathy and a perfect memory. You hear it, don't you? That sound. Louder now. Not the soft tick-tock they used to ignore. No, this isn't a lullaby anymore. It's a siren. A pounding rhythm that echoes in your chest, not your ears. Because time doesn't whisper when it's done waiting. It roars. It rips through your plans, your comfort zones, your pretty little lies. Everything you said you'd do tomorrow, time just lit a match under it. And it doesn't care if you're watching it burn. Funny how people treat time like it's a friend, like it's patient, like it's supposed to wait while they figure things out. But time isn't a therapist. It doesn't want your feelings. It wants movement, action, forward. And if you don't move, if you stand there frozen waiting for perfect, time will shove you off the ledge, into the fire, into the very thing you were trying to avoid. Not because it's cruel, but because it warned you over and over again. And you didn't listen. You ever watch someone smile through the sirens? Swear they've got it handled while everything behind them is falling apart. That's how most people live. Denial dressed up in confidence, saying, I'm fine, while time is tapping them on the shoulder like, no, you're not. That's the thing about warnings. They don't come in neon signs. They come in patterns, missed chances, gut feelings, doors closing slowly at first, then all at once. And if you're too busy convincing yourself you've got more time, you'll blink, and it's gone. There's a moment when the noise gets so loud, it's all you can hear. When the panic sets in, not because you're surprised, but because deep down, you knew you were supposed to do something, say something, leave something, start something, but you didn't. You stalled. You waited. You scrolled. You wasted. And now, time standing in front of you, face to face, holding up a mirror with every consequence reflected back in full color. You thought there'd be more signs. You thought it would come gently. But time doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tap. It punches. Because that's what final warnings do. They scream. They shake you. They kick down the door you refuse to walk through and drag you into the storm you tried to avoid. And you don't get to say, I didn't know. Because you did. You always did. And isn't that the part that burns the most? Not the loss, not the fall, but the knowing. The knowing that you were warned, that you felt it, that you heard the roar long before it swallowed you whole. But still, you waited. You gambled with something that never loses. You thought time would wait, that it would whisper just a little longer. But whispers turn to screams, clocks turn to bombs. And once it hits zero, no one's listening to your excuses, not even you. People treat delay like it's harmless, like it's just a soft pause, a breather, a break. They say things like, I'll do it later, with the same confidence as someone defusing a bomb with their eyes closed. as if later isn't a liar, as if tomorrow doesn't come with teeth. But what they don't see, what they refuse to see, is that delay isn't neutral. It's a gamble. And the longer you stall, the higher the cost. Because every time you flinch instead of leap, that dream you keep coddling dies just a little more. They call it being careful, waiting for the right time. Cute words for fear, fancy labels for avoidance. But deep down, they're scared. Scared to fail, scared to be seen trying, scared to move and find out they're not who they said they were. So they delay, they distract, they disguise hesitation as strategy. But the truth, delay is a dressed-up disaster. A quiet little thief that doesn't take your dream all at once. No, it nibbles slowly, daily, until one day you wake up and there's nothing left to fight for. The clock isn't just ticking, it's eroding. And every second you waste feeding your doubts is a second your breakthrough starves. But they don't hear it, do they? They've trained themselves not to. Turned their intuition down to background noise. Because if they really listened, they'd have to act. They'd have to stop pretending the window will stay open forever. Spoiler, it won't. Windows slam. Doors lock. And time has no interest in giving back what it watched you waste. People always think they'll be ready later. That some magical day will arrive when the fear is gone and the stars line up and the voice in their head finally says, okay now. But that voice, it never comes because it was never supposed to. Readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you decide. And the longer you delay that decision, the more you teach yourself that comfort matters more than growth. That playing safe is better than playing to win. And eventually, you forget you even wanted it. You ever wonder why some people never make it? It's not lack of talent, not lack of opportunity. It's death by hesitation. It's every moment they knew they should have moved and didn't. Every instinct they ignored. Every time they looked at the cliff and thought, maybe tomorrow. But cliffs aren't loyal. They don't stay. And one day they turn around and the edge is gone. The view is gone. The chance is gone. And they're left with regret disguised as wisdom. They'll tell you delay was maturity. That they were taking their time. That they were being smart. But watch their eyes when they say it. Look close. You'll see it. That flicker. That ache. That quiet war inside them screaming. You waited too long. Because they know. They know they had a moment when they were supposed to jump, and they didn't. And now they tell stories about almost, about what if, because delay didn't just cost them time, it cost them identity. It rewired them into someone who hesitates first and hopes later. So while they spin in circles, dancing with distractions and calling it patience, the truth sits there. Ugly, heavy, real. Delay isn't a pause. It's a poison. It doesn't wait for you to figure things out. It infects. It multiplies. It wraps itself around your potential until you forget you ever had any. And once it settles in, it doesn't want movement. It wants silence, stagnation, safety. It wants you numb, stuck, frozen in place, calling it peace while everything inside you screams for war. They always think if they don't look at the fire, it won't burn them. If they ignore the alarms, the building won't collapse. That if they just smile hard enough, post enough, stay busy enough, maybe, just maybe, the consequences will forget their name. But life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't negotiate with denial. You can ignore the signs all you want, but But that won't stop the avalanche. It'll just bury you deeper when it hits. People love pretending they don't know. They play dumb like it's a game. They act surprised when the ground gives out under them, but they've been feeling the tremors for years. The problem isn't the fall, it's the fake shock, the pretend confusion, the how did this happen when they know exactly how it happened. Every missed signal, every gut feeling they buried, every time they looked at the mirror and said, not today. And today becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes never, and never becomes the punchline to their own tragedy. The truth doesn't hide. It taps you on the shoulder. It whispers in the quiet. It pokes you in the middle of the night when no one's around to lie to. But when you keep turning away from it, eventually it stops being polite. The signs start screaming. The lights flicker. The ground shakes. And still, some people cover their ears and hum like they're immune. Like ignorance is some kind of shield. It's not. It's gasoline. And the longer you ignore what you know in your bones, the bigger the explosion when it finally hits. And it will hit. Not because the universe is cruel. Not because life is unfair. But because you refuse to listen. Because you acted like warnings were optional. Like reality bends to comfort. But comfort is a liar dressed in silk. It feeds you just enough ease to keep you sitting still while the flood rises. It tells you you're okay when you're not. And the scariest part, you believe it. You want to believe it. Because facing the truth would mean you have to change. You'd have to move. You'd have to leave what's killing you and walk straight into the unknown. But you didn't. You stayed. You waited. You watched the red flags wave like carnival decorations. You laughed them off. Called it just a phase. Said, it'll pass. But some things don't pass. Some storms don't leave until they've taken everything. And when it's all gone, when the damage is too loud to ignore, you'll finally look around and say, I should have seen it coming. But you did. You did see it coming. You just didn't want to deal with it. There's no safety in silence. No safety in pretending. The truth doesn't disappear because you're tired. The signs don't stop flashing just because you're not in the mood. They wait. They build. They collect interest. And when the time comes, they cash in, all at once, with interest, with fury, with zero sympathy for how fragile you feel. So while you're busy convincing yourself everything's fine, the ground beneath you is getting thinner. While you tell yourself there's still time, the clock is melting. And while you play blind to what's right in front of you, life sharpens its blade. Because this isn't a movie. There's no dramatic music, no slow motion rescue. Just you, the signs, and what you chose to do with them. And when you choose to ignore them, they don't disappear. They wait. And they don't come back with a whisper. They return like a scream. They think darkness is dangerous. They think it's where the monsters live. But the truth is, the shadows are where the real work begins, not the pretty work, not the part they put on display. The gritty stuff, the ugly grind, the screaming with no sound kind of transformation. But most people don't get that. They think if no one sees it, it doesn't count. If it's not loud, it's not real. They need applause to feel alive. They need permission to grow. But the ones who really shift, they do it in silence. See, some moves aren't meant for the crowd. Some chapters get written in ink only you can see. You go quiet, not because you're weak, but because you're sharpening. You're not hiding, you're evolving. But try telling that to someone addicted to attention. They'll think you've vanished, gone soft, lost your edge. But you haven't. You've just gone, and there's no stage in there, no claps, no eyes, just mirrors. And that's the part they run from, those mirrors. The ones that don't lie, the ones that show every crack in the mask. You stop posting. You stop explaining. You stop trying to make them understand something that was never meant for their ears. And they panic. Because silence makes people uncomfortable, makes them suspicious. But that's the beauty of the shadows. They keep the noise out. They protect the process. Because when something's still forming, the last thing it needs is commentary from people who can't even see straight. And make no mistake, the louder the crowd, the more blind they become. But you're building something that doesn't need their validation. You're shifting your soul one scar at a time. You're breaking patterns, killing old versions of yourself without making it a spectacle. And that's terrifying to them, because they don't understand power without performance. They don't understand growth that isn't branded. But you do. You know what it means to go underground, to disappear, to cocoon. And when you come back, it's not with a bang, it's with a presence, heavier, sharper, realer. And that scares them, because they thought you were gone. They thought you quit. They mistook silence for surrender. But silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. It's restraint. It's the knowing that not everything sacred needs an audience. And while they were busy being seen, you were busy. You weren't distracted. You weren't flattered. You were focused. And that kind of focus, it can't be bought. It can't be faked. It can't be rushed. It's forged in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, away from the scrolling, the shouting, the pretending. And yes, it's lonely. Oh, it's suffocating sometimes. The silence gets loud. The doubts crawl in. You wonder if it's working. If the pain is worth it. If you're crazy for walking away from the noise. But that's the test. Can you keep going when no one's clapping? Can you keep building when no one sees the blueprint? Can you hold the vision even when it's just you, the shadows, and the silence? Because that's where the shift really happens. Not in the spotlight, not in the applause. In the unseen. In the ignored. In the parts of you no one ever bothered to look at. So while they chase visibility, you chase depth. While they decorate the surface, you dismantle the root. And maybe they'll never understand. Maybe they'll never see what it took. But you'll know. And when it's time, when the curtain rises and the shift is complete, they won't recognize you. Not because you changed overnight, but because you changed in the dark where no one was watching and no one could stop you. They say the moment before everything changes is quiet. But they don't tell you what kind of quiet it is. It's not peaceful, it's not calming. No, it's electric. It's that strange stillness right before the sky splits open. The kind that makes your skin itch. The kind that makes you feel like something is crawling just beneath the surface. But most people miss it because they're too busy waiting for signs that feel safe. For change that looks polite. But change doesn't knock. It breaks the door down wearing a grin. You ever feel it? That weight in the air? Like something's about to snap, twist, shift? That's not your imagination. That's your instinct kicking and screaming, trying to get your attention. But instead of leaning in, people scroll it away, numb it out. But see, when the shift comes, it doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't check your mood. It shows up messy, unscheduled, loud in all the places you tried to keep quiet. It pulls the rug out and watches what you do with the fall. And most people, they panic, they freeze, they beg for things to go back to the way they were. As if the comfort zone wasn't killing them slowly. As if the cage they decorated was ever a home. They'd rather die familiar than live unknown. Dress it up in routine. Pretend it's just another Tuesday. They lie to themselves because truth is inconvenient. Because knowing this is the moment means there's no more running, no more blaming, no more hiding behind potential. And that terrifies them. But not everyone. Some people, they smile at the chaos. They recognize the shift for what it is. A test, not of strength, not of skill, of nerve, of willingness, of how bad you want it when nothing makes sense anymore. Because that's when the real decisions get made, not when everything's clear, but when it's muddy, when it's loud, when the lights flicker and the only thing left to follow is your own fire. And trust me, most people never even light the match. You have to understand, everything doesn't fall apart because you're cursed. It falls apart because it had to. You can't build a new foundation on a lie. You can't carry the old version of yourself into the next level and expect it not to collapse. So the shift comes not to punish you, but to force your hand. To burn the bridge so you don't go back. To slam the door so hard you finally stop knocking. It's violent for a reason. Subtle never worked on you. And oh, how they'll talk. How they'll whisper. How they'll say, "You've changed." Of course you did. That was the point. Change doesn't come with permission slips. It doesn't wait for applause. It arrives uninvited, unbothered, and unavoidable. And if you've got the guts to move with it instead of against it, it'll turn you into something they can't predict. And people hate what they can't predict, because it reminds them of what they could have been if they didn't flinch when the ground started shaking.